have a thing for trying to recreate knitwear from film and TV, and right now I'm actually wearing my last recreation, which is a piece that Emma Watson's character in Perks of Being a Wallflower wore. And you can see on the first video I posted on this YouTube channel how I made it. And this fascination with creating wearable items from media is partially a competition with myself to see if I can do it, and partially to add clothes to my wardrobe that I know I'm gonna love. There are a few specific pieces from the TV show Friends that I have been itching to make, and one of them is Rachel Green's sweater from season 1, episode 9. As far as color combos go, I have always been a black and brown color combo hater. I firmly believe that those colors do not belong together in my wardrobe. However, I'm kind of going through a wardrobe renaissance where I'm trying to push myself a little bit, try new things, and see what I like because I'm sensing that my style is changing. The sweater construction itself is pretty simple. It's a paneled sweater. It looks like it's about 6 inches of positive ease around the waist. The tough part is figuring out the ribbing though, and how the collar is done. I can see that it's ribbed, but can't tell how it's ribbed. I'm making the executive decision to make it a 2x1 rib. I'm not gonna lose sleep over if it's a 3x1 or a 5x2. Brief disclaimer, cause I gotta. Rachel's sweater is machine made. It's using a teeny tiny gauge that I am not going to go anywhere near. I've decided to make this on 3.75 millimeter needles, and I think 2x1 rib would make the most sense with this piece. As for the collar, I've got no idea. It looks like a rolled collar, but the image quality is super grainy and her hair is covering most of it. So I'll say for now that I want to try a rolled collar, but since it's the last step, I'm going to give myself some permission to change my mind on that one. Let's talk yarn. I have been wanting to try out Drops Daisy yarn. I feel like I've been seeing it all over the place. I think they just released it not too long ago. It's an extra fine, non-superwash treated merino wool. First impressions, honestly, I'm surprised it's not itchy. I consider myself as someone who's very sensitive to itch with wool, and so I'm kind of nervous to try out new wools constantly, especially when I order online and I can't touch it in person and get a feel for what it's like. I also think I got the colors down pretty well. So most of the sweater is black. Let's call it Pippin Black. I got 2 balls of this brown and 1 of this lighter color since it's only very thin stripes. Hopefully I won't need that much. You are distracting me. This is a hostile work environment. The first step is going to be making a swatch because I think I want to use 3.5 millimeter needles just based on the yarn, but I have no idea how many stitches I'm going to need to cast on or what my gauge is going to be. And maybe I'll try the 2x1 rib and not like how it looks and need to change that up. So I definitely got to make a swatch for this one. So that's going to be next. I made a swatch and it's perfect and I love it. Oh, and before I said I was going to do 2x1 rib, but as soon as I cast on, I knew that 3x1 was going to look better. So that's what I ended up doing here. 3x1. I'm going to block this and measure it and get started. Also, to make this swatch, I used a 3.75 millimeter needle and I also used a 3.25 millimeter needle. I'm going to go ahead and block this. So I washed and blocked the swatch that I had made. Y'all saw that. You saw me pinning it to the board. There's evidence that I did that. And immediately lost the swatch. Like as soon as I unpinned it that day, lost the swatch. And I can't find it anywhere. But the good news is I took measurements immediately. Like as soon as I unblocked that, like took the pins out, it was completely dry, took measurements. So I got all the information I needed. Thank goodness. As far as construction goes on this sweater, I'm going to do it paneled. So previously, I've had the front and back be identical, and if there is a difference, it's just in the neckline. But in this case, I kind of want to make the back panel basically a solid rectangle with a slight scoop out where the neck is going to be, so that there's room for the collar to go when I go to add that. And I want the front panel to look more like a shirt panel if you were to sew a project, where it comes out at the underarms a little bit And my hope is that it's going to fit me, like it's kind of wrapping around the front and draping really nice in the back. I'm mostly doing this because I'm curious to see what that construction would look like on my body. I'm moving further into my experimental phase in knitting, where I want to try as much different stuff as possible, especially around fit, so I can figure out what fit works for me and why. I mentioned this in previous videos, but I use almost exclusively interchangeable needles, which means that you can take the tip of the needles off. They just unscrew. And I have a case with a bunch of different sizes in them, and I like using 2 different size needles when I'm using interchangeable needles. And that is because when I work back and forth, my purl rows are always so much looser that it just looks funky when you look at the right side of the project. Like it looks like there's lines in the garter stitch. Not garter stitch, stockinette stitch. And when I'm working in the round, it doesn't really matter what's on your left needle. And so I always put on a smaller needle anyways, because then I feel like the stitches just glide off so much more smoothly instead of having to like, you know, the feeling of having to like scrunch up the stitches onto your left needle. When you use a smaller needle size on the left, you don't have to scrunch. They just kind of smoothly glide off, and I love that. Casting on. I always cast on with the backwards loop method. I've used other methods before, but backwards loop is always my tried and true. All right, I should probably count my stitches. Here's the thing, I don't count my stitches as I'm going when I cast on. I count them after I think I've done the appropriate amount, only because I'm gonna lose count like 18 different times when I cast on, and I'll have to recount it. And so I may as well just recount it like once or twice instead of like 6 times, you know? 4, 6, 8, 30, 32, 34, 36, 80, 82, 84, 42. Can you believe it? I just cast on 2 extra stitches. That's it. I am shocked with how close I got that. It just would have been the end of the video if I casted on a perfect 140. Like, that would be enough for me. I'd be like, it's too amazing. I have to end the video on that note.
I know that you know I saw it. Your words like little knives. Part of me thought you would have fought it. Can't say that I was surprised. Oh, 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 oh. I'm so done with you. Yeah, I'm so done with you.
Okay, here's what happened. I finished the front and back panel, and I was going to block them both. And during blocking, I noticed a big problem. The gauge of the front panel was significantly larger than the gauge of the back panel. I don't know how that happened. I used the same needle size. I've never had this problem before. I have the personality type where when something goes wrong, my gut reaction is, well, that's ruined. That is a fail. Let's fix it. And that's good in some cases of like, all right, problem happened, moving on to solution. As I was collecting my things to start casting on the front panel and redoing it, I instead was like, all right, it's already drying, it's blocking. Let's see what we can salvage, because I'm gonna have to wait for that to dry anyway. So I might as well get the blocking to be in a way that like might be salvageable. It's not over until it's blocked. I don't know how many times I have to learn that lesson for it to finally sink in, but we're getting there. The next step for me, naturally, is to spend the next 85 years weaving in all of these ends, so that'll be fun. I'm genuinely curious of how long it's going to take. I'm expecting it to take one movie, so like hour and a half to 2 hours. So on the front panel, I carried up the dark brown yarn as I knit. I did cut the beige yarn because I didn't want to carry up 2 strands of yarn. I don't know why. I probably should have just carried up 2 strands of yarn. And then on this one, I did not carry any yarn, and I cut it as soon as I was done with that stripe. I am tired tonight, and I am not in the mood to be weaving in any ends. So I'm gonna save that for tomorrow.
colors. Summer lonesome dove folded on the lawn chair in all the colors.
Now seems like as good a time as any to talk about the stripes. Typically, when you're doing any sort of ribbing and you want to do stripes, the preferred method by many is when you're transitioning to the new color for the stripes, you should do that first row completely in knit stitches. Don't do your ribbing. However, for this project, I decided it was more important to me to have unbroken rib stitches all the way vertical rather than have a smooth transition in between stripes, especially because I'm doing 3x1 and the purl rows are a little bit hidden due to the nature of the fabric and how it lays. So I'm not too concerned about that. I am almost done weaving an end, so I'm going to wrap that up tonight. Maybe seam the panels together. That way tomorrow I am set up to cast on the sleeves. We have a problem. This is way too long. Widthwise, I'm really happy with the fit. It's like 4 inches of positive ease, perfect. But lengthwise, this is not what I'm looking for. This is like a solid 3 inches too long, if not slightly more. But it's not the end of the world. Luckily, since the neckline is way too big, I think all I have to do is unravel a bit of this shoulder portion here and that'll hike the whole thing up. So I'm gonna do that today and we'll see if that fixes the problem. If it doesn't fix the problem, you'll see me in the next clip talking about my next plan. If it does fix the problem, I'm just gonna go right into seaming and casting on a sleeve. The video quality might be a little bit sketchy for this bit. Since I work a full-time job, I only have the evenings and weekends to film. So let me catch you up with what's happened since I last checked in with you, which for you was about 5 seconds ago and for me was a couple days ago. I should start by saying I have been greatly humbled by this project. I went into it thinking it's a paneled sweater. I've done them before. I'm just adding some ribbing and some stripes. No problem. I could do this in my sleep. I was wrong. I was proven wrong. And the project has been kicking my butt. So when I went to seam the sweater together on the sides, I used the mattress stitch, easy peasy. On the shoulders, I did about 4 different seaming techniques, and the only one that I found that looked even remotely good was having an exposed seam. And don't get me wrong, I do like the look of it. It's just not what I was expecting. And then I went to cast on the sleeve and I cast on way too many stitches. And I was getting really frustrated because I had spent 4 days seaming this thing together because I had to keep undoing it. And undoing seaming is not easy. And redoing it over and over again. So so I was a bit frustrated with this project by the time I got to casting on the sleeve. And then when I cast it on to see that there were way too many stitches. And the thing is, casting on the sleeve, it took several inches before I was able to realize that it was too big because you just can't tell what the sizing is going to be like. So I undid that and I was definitely feeling a little bit frustrated with this sweater and I wanted to set it aside. The nice thing about the way I film my videos is I have a pretty flexible schedule with myself in the order in which I release videos. So I don't need to have this sweater done by a certain timeline. So I just kind of set it aside. And then I was Skyping with one of my friends 2 days ago. I have a long distance friend. Her and I do Skype dates together. And usually we do some sort of crafty activity while we're Skyping each other, like crochet or knitting. She's really good at crochet. And so I just kind of turned my brain off and decided to try casting on the sleeve again. I didn't want to overthink it. And I'm really glad I didn't. And during that Skype call, I got about 2 inches of sleeve done and it was perfect. The dimensions were perfect. But I still was not trusting this, especially because I had to do decreases and I was not trusting the ratio of decreases that I was doing. So I didn't want to film any of it because I'm like, no, I can film the second sleeve. I'm not going to film the first one. I'm just going to have that be for me. Can you believe that she's like kind of aggressive towards people that come over to our house? I think it's because she's so protective of us. She's just a little guard cat. So during the Skype call, cast it on the sleeve, did a couple inches, things were looking good, and the next step for me was going to be figuring out decreases. Every other round, I would need to decrease 1 stitch, or every 4 rounds, I could decrease 2 stitches. And for sleeves, I really like to do a center double decrease, which is when you decrease 2 stitches at once from either side into a middle stitch. So you're decreasing 2 stitches. So I'm doing that once every 4 rounds. Did the whole sleeve. The ratio worked out great. That's where I'm at now. I just cast it on the second sleeve. It took a couple tries to get the number to be exact. I cast it on 104 stitches on the left sleeve, so now I need to do 104 stitches on the right, and it took some time. It took about an hour for me to cast on the correct number of stitches. But I did it, and I've done about an inch of knitting so far, and I'm on to doing the decreases. I have been all over the place with this project. Some days I love it, and some days I think it's like the worst thing I've ever made. That mindset seems to be pretty typical for me on most projects, although lately I've been feeling really good about my projects as I've been moving through them, and my confidence was getting high, and that's why I think I needed to be humbled with this one and just struggle a little bit. That's what you're going to get with this channel. You're not going to get me doing something perfect on the first try. That's just not realistic, and I don't think that's how most people craft. And if that is how you craft, congratulations. I'm jealous. That's amazing. But I make mistakes. I make lots of mistakes, and that's what you're here to watch. I'm not going to show you every mistake because sometimes I get a little bit more frustrated and use some choice words that aren't appropriate for the internet. Right now, I'm feeling really good about this project. I like how it's turning out. I love how the yarn feels and the fabric feels and the color combinations. So I'm doing pretty good. Here's where we're at. You can see my sleeve down here. She's looking pretty. I got some more ends to weave in, as if I didn't already have enough. And I have less than an inch of the other sleeve. So I'm going to spend the next day and a half just knitting the heck out of this because I have a ton of knitting mojo. And when you have knitting mojo, you got to ride that train as fast as you can. I'll probably check in with you tomorrow. I don't think I'm going to get much done on this tonight because I got to make dinner. And then me and my husband are going to go see The Color Purple. We are definitely theater people. In fact, I am a platinum member at my movie theater because I went to so many movies last year. Not to brag, but I'm bragging. So yeah, we're going to see The Color Purple tonight. We have recently discovered that my husband enjoys musicals quite a bit, so hopefully he'll like this one. We just saw the Wonka movie, and we both actually really like that. I don't care what anyone else says about movies. I'm not taking anyone else's opinions. I like movies, and I like enjoying them, so I really enjoyed Wonka. So I'll let you know how I feel about this movie. Now, baby girl, you have got to get up because your bony something is in my thigh, and it hurts. That's fun. I am on so many tangents. Good night.
When we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. Oh, the good times just begun. Oh, we know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are finally right. With you and I, the future is bright. Oh, you and I, we got it. Oh, we don't need no more. Oh, even in the hard times, you and I can weather any storm. Before I sleep, hear the crickets, see the moon. Side by side and through. No limit to what we can do.
I'm back. It is the next day, and I wish I had a better mic because I think it always sounds weird when I have to like talk down to it. But if I talk straight forward, I feel like it is worse and it doesn't catch my voice as well. So I'm just gonna talk as I talk. Um, So I have made a tiny bit more progress on the sleeve. Yikes, I just did a knit where there should be a purl. And here I thought I could knit and talk to you at the same time. Evidently, I can't. Let's see what happens when I have to do a decrease. I guarantee I forget to do a decrease while talking to you. So, dinner last night was like really good. I decided to be a bit more bougie and got the fancy cheese, the fancy Parmesan for $7. I'm not very good at cooking, but it was a good dinner. And the movie last night was really good. The music was phenomenal. It's so interesting how it kept towing the line and flip flopping between being really dark, heavy, look up trigger warnings if you're going to watch it, like subject matter, and then moving to very hopeful and upbeat, uplifting musical numbers or scenes. And it just continually moving between the two, and the humor in it was very dark. It was just, I would love to watch it again. And the fact that it was so good makes it even worse that my husband and I were so annoyed the entire time because we had the rudest people sitting close to us. So my husband and I were having a great night, totally vibing, got to the movie theater, we're having a good time, and the people next to us immediately decided to just be the worst people to sit next to during a movie. They were sitting a couple seats down, but there was no one in between us because it was a pretty empty theater. And right away they started hacking up a lung. Both people, there was two of them, they came together. They were coughing so aggressively to the point where I was concerned and I kind of wanted to give them a bottle of water. And it was like, you should probably be at urgent care or like resting at home, not here. And then, the coughing alone was, it was tough because there were so many like quiet, moving scenes in the movie where all you could hear was this person coughing very loudly. And their voice carried, they boomed. And speaking of their voices, they made constant commentary as if they were a YouTube movie commentary section performing live. And it was not good commentary, it was not appreciated. I was so upset because they were talking so loudly, and it was like, oh, is that the sister? Oh, I bet I know what's going to happen next. And then they would make jokes, like really rude jokes to be making at that kind of movie, or any movie. And it just sucked because I was enjoying the movie so much. And I've been to the movies probably 200 to 300 times over the course of my entire life. Like I go to the movies a lot. And I've never had an experience like that before. I think I have a pretty high tolerance for people being rude out in public before I consider it rude, or before I let it ruin my time. But it was so distracting, so loud, and so rude that no one could perceive that as like, oh, they're just having a good time. Stop being such a Karen. It was like, no, they were actively just being the worst. Or as my husband said, they were acting like they were God's gift to the movie theater. So we just left the movie just in a bad mood, despite the movie being so good. Okay, here's a tangent if you want to get to know me better. I have always played it pretty fast and loose with my hair. I wish I could find a picture of it, but there's very little photographic evidence of my high school time. But I had a lot of like really fun hairstyles. So at one point, I shaved half of my head, like the side, and had the other side be like shoulder length. I've had pixie cuts. I've shaved my head entirely before and dyed it funky colors and done like streaks in my hair. And I've just always had fun with my hair. But in 2018, when I shaved my head completely, which by the way, highly recommend doing, I miss it. Um, but after that, I decided to grow out my hair. And the fun thing about growing out your hair from being bald, my cat's gonna jump on the stool that you're on. It's gonna shake the camera. Pippin, come here. So in 2018, shaved my head entirely. And I decided to take the opportunity to try every possible hairstyle, which is something great that people don't really tell you about growing out a shaved head. Here, I'm just going to talk to you like this now because I can take a break from knitting. Fingers hurt. Um, People always talk about like, oh, it really sucks to grow out a shaved head. Not if you own it. It can be a lot of fun because you get to try every hairstyle that you've always wanted to try as you're growing it out. And because I had always had shorter hair, like my hair very seldom in life, I think after 5 years old, never was longer than my shoulders. I decided to grow up my hair after shaving it, and I wanted to see how long I could get it. because I had never had long hair. So I grew out my hair to the point where I would call it, it's the beginning of being long. Like it wasn't long, long hair, but it was past being like mid length. And I was imagining a reality where I would have longer hair and I would do really cute braids and do really cute hairstyles. That doesn't happen. Yeah, I ended up never styling my hair. So I decided to cut it again to shoulder length, just like I don't want to chop it all off. Well, I kind of did. And I ended up just cutting it. I think I ended up cutting it like an inch shorter every day for 2 weeks over the course of a vacation to see if any of my family members would notice. And nobody noticed. I ended up cutting a total of 8 inches off of my hair. No one noticed. This is quite the tangent. Anyways, I was really itching to shave my head again. Like I wanted to do something very dramatic because I was just so sick of having my hair be, it was too short to put up in a ponytail or a bun. You had to do it half up, half down. And from a sensory perspective, that was just getting to me. And I really wanted to shave my head off just for the sensory aspect of it. But it's also winter and I don't look cute when I shave my head and try to wear like a knit hat. So I didn't want to do that either. That's a lot of commitment. So, anyways, I did something that I've done before, which is doing a half shaved look, also known as an undercut. I love an undercut. I would totally recommend. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but it is a functional hairstyle because I can do a high bun with shorter than shoulder length hair. And that's wild to me. I can still wear it half up and half down, and it still looks totally normal. And I can wear it completely down, looks totally normal. This is just so much better. So I'm going to spend the next 2 days working on this sleeve, and then I'll probably block this whole thing. Maybe I should wait to block it until after I do the collar so I don't have to block it again. I've already blocked this so many times. Yeah, I think I'll wait. So I'll do the whole sleeve and then I will talk to you when I'm done with that. It's coming together. It's almost done. I didn't get any of the sleeve done when I was talking to you. It's been like over half an hour because I can ramble on. When I edit my videos, by the way, every time you see me sit down talking and it's a new like day or I'm wearing a new outfit or something, I spend half an hour to an hour talking to the camera and I have to whittle that down. So sometimes I get it down to like 5 minutes and sometimes I have to whittle it down to like a minute. So you're not seeing like 90% of the things that I'm saying. I ramble all over the place constantly and I forget to talk about certain stuff. And so I'll go back and edit and I'll be like, oh my gosh, I literally sat down to talk about this one specific thing and I didn't even touch on that one specific thing. Why? I am freshly showered and feeling very cozy this weekend. I'm back like I said I would. I told you I would check in with you after I finished both sleeves, and I finished both sleeves. And I made them a little bit longer than I want them to be on purpose. Because for those of you that don't know, when you make a sweater, it is best practice to do the body first and then do the collar, or do the collar first and then the body, and then do the sleeves last. Because when you do the collar, it tightens everything in the sweater up and pulls it up a bit. So your sleeves are going to end up being a little bit shorter after you've made your collar. So I just pre-planned for that, and I personally am less affected by this because I like my sweater sleeves to be pretty short. I actually don't want it to go past my wrist bone ever. It's a sensory thing. I just don't like the feeling of having really long sleeves going all over the place when I'm trying to do work. All right, that is enough sleeve talk. I just need to finish up the collar. I am for sure going to do a rolled hem and I'm super nervous. I've never done a rolled hem collar before. We can unpack why I don't like rolled hems, but I'm gonna do it anyways. So we're basically almost done with this. It's very exciting. I'm also in a good mood because I saw The Color Purple again last night with a friend of mine, and it was literally the last showing of that movie in my area. And it was a much better theater experience than the first attempt, and the movie was even better the second time. I loved it. So yeah, I just gotta pick up stitches for the collar, knit the collar, cast off, weave in the ends of the sleeves, and then block the whole thing one more time and take a lint roller to it because guys, black yarn is a commitment. You need to know what you're getting into with black yarn. Everything is going to be sticking to it. And I thought this would be great. I have black cats, their fur won't show up on it. Everything else will. Everything else will show up on this thing. I think when I go to block this, I'm going to set it on my fan to dry it because today's Saturday and I'm planning on releasing this video tomorrow at 6 a.m.
Blue sky come bearing up before us. We hang on the hem of your gown. Blue sky come, promise not to leave us. Tarry not to our town. There's a darkness in the valley, heavy branches crack and split. If we holler, will you hurry us through?
Okay, what do we think? You can decide what you think before I tell you what I think. I'll do a little turn for you here. Do the 180. Oh my gosh, I match Pippin right now. Like color wise, we match. I'll show you. Pippin does not like being picked up when she doesn't feel like it. So I disrespected her boundary and she will get a treat because of that because I feel bad. All right, let's go through my thoughts as far as like category goes. So construction, I really like the construction. I love that I did the front panel shaping different than I did the back panel and that the front panel kind of wraps around. I feel like it fits my body so much better and like moves with my body. And when I go to move my arms up, it's not yanking above. Like, some sweaters when you lift your arms up and it feels like the sweater's like basically come off. It doesn't do that. And then the sleeve fit, I really like the sleeve fit. I did decreases. I do not love having balloon sleeves or straight sleeves because I feel like they get everywhere when I'm trying to do things. So I like that these are just manageable sleeves and they're loose enough where you can like roll them up quite a bit because I also typically have my sleeves rolled up. And I actually really like the rolled collar. I wasn't sure if I was going to like it or not, and I would totally do this again. I'm really glad that I switched needles halfway through from a 3.75 millimeter needle to a 3.5 millimeter needle. So it kind of goes inward a little bit instead of just being really floppy. And the tough thing about doing the rolled hem is not knowing where the roll's going to go. So I was unsure of how long to make it, but I think I got it pretty good as far as like how high up it goes. And the only things that I would change about the construction if I were to do it again is instead of doing the whole thing paneled, starting out in the round from the bottom up so that I don't have these bulky seams on the side. And I honestly, sewing it up, thought that I was going to be more annoyed by these seams, but I'm not really that annoyed. They fall in like a nice part and it gives it a decent construction. So I don't know. I'm kind of 50-50 on that one. And then there's nothing else I would change about the construction for myself. I mean, if I wanted it to match the TV show outfit a little bit more, I would have made it a little bit more cropped, which is not something that I usually have an issue with. I usually make things way too short. I think hers would have been like right here, but I made it like an inch and a half longer. Oh no. It just makes it a little bit more wearable for me. For the yarn, I use Drop Daisy yarn and I really like it. I want to work with it again. It's not itchy, like hardly at all. On an itchiness scale, I would give it a 1 out of 10. So yeah, minimal itch, very soft, and incredibly warm. I'm sweating right now. I think I need to step outside. We're having a bit of a cold snap where I live right now, which is like 20 degrees Fahrenheit. And where I'm from, that's nothing. That's fall weather. So it's perfect for me to be like stepping outside in this in like a light jacket. And then color palette. I took myself out of my comfort zone for this one. This is not my usual color palette. I don't even own a lot of black, let alone black and brown together. And I was kind of concerned with how this was going to fit with other pieces in my wardrobe. But I did style it with a couple different things that I own, and there's quite a few outfits that I could make. It fit with most of my clothes, which I guess is just the benefit of having a lot of neutral pants. I feel like this really fits in with the earth tones that I have in my closet. I'm just distracted watching the snow. It never snows where I live, maybe once or twice a year, and it goes away usually in a day or two. And so I love when it snows here. It makes me feel like I'm at home. Also, knitting this made me really think about styling it in the context of the show Friends because as I'm wearing this, I was like, this is very like late autumn is the vibe that I'm getting from the sweater and something that I would totally want to wear in like November time frame. And in the episode where the sweater is featured, it's their Thanksgiving episode, so it's late November. Like they nailed the styling for that. It's such a subtle late autumn vibe which just makes it perfect. And so I think, especially in the first couple seasons, they did a really good job of styling the characters. So yeah, I'm really happy with this. I think if anyone wanted to make this, I would recommend just following a very vanilla knitting pattern for just a basic stockinette stitch sweater, and then adjusting it to be 3 by 1 rib, which just means that when you cast on, it needs to be in increments of 4. So whatever number that you have for casting on stitches, divide that by 4, and the answer needs to be a whole number. It's a lot of math, but it's not that bad. And it's not the end of the world if you don't get it exact and you have like a 2 by 1 little stripe up the side. No one's going to notice that. And then just do like stripes as you please. Um, oh, something else that I should probably mention about the construction that I totally forgot was I haven't done many sweaters where I'm not doing a twisted rib knit uh, hem or sleeve cuffs or neck collars. I always do twisted rib for all three. And it was so funny to just continue in the stitch pattern that I was going with and just bind off with that. That was kind of really fun. And it wasn't like, oh, there's a whole nother section I got to do. I was like, oh, I'm just done with it. The sweater was kind of frustrating at times, but I'm definitely going to wear it a lot. And it's now that I'm done with it and I'm wearing it, all the bad stuff is just gone. And I'm like, it was great. I had no troubles making this. There were zero struggles whatsoever. It's kind of like women who like give birth and then forget about how traumatizing that experience was instantly. And they're like, it was great. I have a baby now. Yeah, it was great. I have a sweater now. Wow, watch me compare making a sweater to the miracle of birth. Yep. Okay, and there actually is one more thing. I was also nervous, and I didn't mention this before, about doing a sweater with horizontal stripes. And actually, in the process of making the sweater, because I started this in November, and it is currently the Saturday before this video is going to be released. Why did I do the watch look? That's ridiculous. I've never worn a watch. I don't wear watches. That makes no sense. Anyways, in the time that I knit this, I also made the sibling sweater by Laura Penrose, which I love. And anyone that grew up with the TV show What Not to Wear or any sort of styling TV show on like TLC knows that they would tell people don't wear horizontal stripes unless you're really thin because it's going to make you look big. And I have always just avoided horizontal stripes because of that, even though I know it's so dumb to style things based on what makes you look skinny. That is such a dumb concept. We know that now, but it's still in there in the back of my head. So I think making these horizontal stripe outfits and sweaters is just really going to help get rid of that little voice in the back of my head because I look really cute in this. I look really cute. There are a couple other sweaters that are featured in the TV show Friends in the earlier seasons that I would really like to recreate. And one of them is a top that Monica wears. And I can't remember now, but I have it saved somewhere what the other one is. So let me know if you have any interest in me doing that or if you have any recommendations for like other things that I could recreate. I like the challenge of it. I think it's really fun. And it's also kind of fun to be like, this isn't just a sweater, it's a sweater from the TV show Friends, which is not like my favorite show by any means, but it's nostalgic. And that makes it extra special. Yeah. All right, that's it. I hope you have a good day. No, I hope you have a crafty day. I'm going to spend the rest of my day probably editing this video for a little bit, posting it, and working on another project. I'm doing another sibling sweater already. And I'll see you next week. Thank you for watching. Okay, I should stop now. I'm just gonna go on forever. I like talking to you. So, you know, I don't want to, I need to turn the mic off. I'm just gonna turn the mic off and I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna walk away. And that's gonna be the end of our conversation and end of the video.